For the first time in his career, Scottie Barnes is entering the season as the bona fide centerpiece of the Toronto Raptors. But that position has been met with some criticism by part of the fan base. So how will he stack up to the pressure this season? Let's get into it. Welcome back to Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to Toronto Raptors content, and a big topic of conversation at Media Day was the direction of the Toronto Raptors and where they're heading. And oftentimes when Masai Ujiri specifically was asked about this, he named Scottie Barnes as the player they want to build around moving forward. So over the course of the video, we're going to be discussing how Scottie Barnes stacks up to this position here amidst some of the criticism going on from the fan base who suggest that this is not the type of player that can be the first option, specifically the first option on a contending team. Now, obviously, the Raptors are not yet in that position as a contending team. That was made abundantly clear at Media Day. But can we progress to a place where this team is contending? And can we progress to that place with Scottie Barnes as the main figure for the team, or rather the first option for the team? That is what we are going to try and figure out in the next 10 minutes or so. So for starters, Scottie Barnes was asked a lot about his role with the team now going into the season. It seems like so long ago, but only 1 year ago, the Raptors were entering the season with obviously new head coach in Darko Rajakovic, but the team still had Pascal Siakam. The team still had OG Anunoby. A lot of the remnants of that championship team of 2019. And heading into that season, it was still pretty clear that Pascal Siakam was the number one guy for the team. Pascal Siakam was the best player on the team. But trading him away to the Indiana Pacers and OG Anunoby getting traded to the New York Knicks, it showcased that it was going to be a new era for this team. And it was going to be a new era around Scottie Barnes. And he seems to have adapted pretty well to that in the offseason, despite the fact that perhaps the early stages of that phase for the Raptors weren't the most smooth sailing. I mean, Scottie Barnes started the season last year unbelievably well, so much so that he earned his first ever NBA All-Star appearance. But after the trades went down, there seemed to have been a little regression starting to creep in for the player, especially after trading away Pascal Siakam. But for a player 22, 23 years old, I feel like it's fair to say that could be expected a little bit. But now there's a clear runway for what he needs to do this season. He is very well rested after, doing nothing in the offseason as far as, games played is concerned, missing a big chunk of the end of last season due to a hand injury. I feel like if the Raptors were in a position where they were competing for something, he would have come back later on in the season. But, the Raptors were tanking. There was no point of him rushing things back. So he is well rested, ready to absolutely attack this season. And I very much believe he is going to be proving a lot of the doubters wrong when it comes to his role with the team. Whenever there's conversations about building around Scottie Barnes, again, a lot of the fan base just seems to think that he just doesn't have what it takes to be that guy. Doesn't have enough scoring power, doesn't have enough of the ability to be that main piece for hopefully eventually a contending team. But when I hear things like that, my big question is why? Why would he not be able to do that? He has answered the call. He has met every challenge he has faced so far in his NBA career. In his third season in the NBA, he made an NBA All-Star team. I understand it was as an injury reserve, but he should have been in an All-Star team regardless of that. He should have been in before the injury reserves came into play. But in the end, he still made it. We won't remember that. We'll remember Scottie Barnes in his third NBA season was an NBA All-Star. He was already proving to be potentially the best player on the team last year, and doing this all at, again, 22, 23 years old. What tool does this guy not already have in his bag? Like, he can pretty much do it all. He's the do-it-all sort of star. Obviously, some certain things within that bag, within that toolbox are, developing and getting better, but there isn't really any fundamental part of the game that is completely missing. Maybe it's just in the infancy, maybe it's just some of it in the early stages, but it's there, and he's working on it, and he's continuing to make it better. And as he continues to develop, again, why could he not be the number one guy for this team? I think that part of being that number one guy, as far as an ability standpoint, it's there. I've talked about it already in this video. It's there. The ability is there. But I think a lot of what comes down to being that number one guy for your team is your leadership qualities. And obviously, he's very young, still on his rookie contract. I know he just signed his rookie max extension. That hasn't kicked in yet. He's still on his rookie scale contract, right? He's really been thrust into this position rather earlier on than we would have expected him to be, but he seems to be completely taking it in stride and showcasing very good qualities as a person. Now, this granted, he's going through some off-court drama right now, which we don't need to discuss here, but it's all business when it comes to the basketball side of things. And he's really taking it upon himself to try and help build up this team from a chemistry standpoint, saying that they've already started to put in the work, and apparently that work is being put in to build the chemistry as a result of Scottie Barnes taking it upon himself to try and get the team together and build on things. And I think that's just so fantastic that he's trying to take this role in stride. I'm sure there's been some conversations behind the scenes as to him as a player and him also as a leader for this team. And again, just seems to be completely bought into that sort of role. So from a first option standpoint, what is that going to look like? Because going into this season, I mean, RJ Barrett took a big scoring leap last year. Emmanuel quickly is getting better. I don't necessarily think that you need to be the top scorer for your team if you're the first option. Like, Scottie Barnes can be the main sort of protagonist for this team, but having players with the qualities of RJ Barrett and what he showcased last season with Raptors and players like Emmanuel quickly just aid him in doing that. And even if RJ Barrett is the leading scorer from a points per game standpoint with the team, I still feel as though Scottie Barnes can be the focal point of the Raptors. So where Scottie Barnes has to take the next steps in being this guy, and again, it doesn't need to happen right away. Like, he's going to the season as the first option, but the Raptors, look, they've said it so many times at Media Day, this is a season of rebuilding, so things don't need to click right away. But had good experiences last season in learning how to handle the fact that he's the main guy, the main focal point for the defensive concern of the opposition. And again, perhaps he struggled a little bit with that last season, but Barnes at Media Day specifically mentioned that he's been working on getting to his spots, getting to more efficient spots, and getting there more efficiently, might I add. And one thing I spoke over the course of the whole offseason is the big thing I want him to work on is that efficiency stuff, getting a little bit more efficient and getting to those spots. So the fact that he mentioned exactly what I want him to work on is just absolutely music to my ears and leads me to believe that he is absolutely putting himself in the position to find the most success this season. 23 years old, I don't see any reason why anybody could say this player can't be the first option. I think he's going to prove a lot of the people who say that he can't do it wrong this season with his scoring output, with his impact all over the floor. And even though it may not come in the form of success for the Raptors, that won't mean anything. Like, I don't want the Raptors to be a 28, 29, 30, 31 win team this season and people look at that and say, look, clearly he can't be the first option if the Raptors record isn't there. You know, Masai and Darko mentioned, again, at Media Day, that there are certainly different priorities for the team this season than just winning basketball games. They obviously want to go and do that, but if there's individual growth, if there's team growth, and it seems that we are on the right path to see that for Scottie Barnes, the rest of the team, and for the collective, this is going to be a successful season for the Raptors to build on as the platform and the foundation for future seasons. I feel like the last few years, every year we go and saying, this is the season to build that foundation. We're just getting started this season, but for some reason it feels different this year. It feels like we are really going to do it, and it feels like a big reason why we are going to do it in Toronto is the play and the leadership capabilities of Scottie Barnes. He's bought into this. He is the number one guy. He is the centerpiece. He is a guy the Raptors are building around, and my goodness, have things come a long way because we are very, very lucky as Raptors fans to be in a position to have a player like Scottie Barnes on the roster and locked in for 6 more years on contract, might I add. So what do you think of Scottie Barnes as the focal point, the centerpiece, the first option? Give me all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that's all for me for today. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Make sure you are subscribed to Amateur Sports for more Raptors content, and I will see you again next time, hopefully for another video.